And I felt like an idiot when he.
Acting head right now.
Montrose, second meeting. So, and been a president of Webster for, I think, almost 10 years.
You guys know.
You know.
I'm Dottie Inglis. I'm retired from Webster University and I've been in Webster for about 25 years.
Judy.
Yes, hi Janice. So yeah, gosh, if we have to say how long we've been in Webster, since '87. So yeah, we've been here a while.
You're not gonna introduce yourself.
Then start giving the staff liaison.
And we know each other as well. And I wear my shirt today, just to make sure kids later today know who I am. Or aren't. Shall we?
Yes. Arts fund information.
So we have Eric here to kind
Yeah.
of go, we did some questions last time just about the Fine Arts Fund, and it's a fundraising part that we have, but there's some confusion always about what we can use the funds for, and if we have to, like, if we used it a lot for the sculpture of Barbary Park. People could specifically make a donation to that sculpture, but it's kind of always been a little confusing what we can do. Just in general, like, can someone donate to the arts fund? Is that a tax-free donation? What can we use that money for? Can we use it for the banners, other projects that we're talking about? So.
Thank you. So Eric Peterson, I'm the Assistant City Manager and Director of Finance. So the Public Art Fund is what we call it here in the books. Currently, there's $1,392.02 in that fund. Obviously, if you look back all the way to 2018, in 2019, you really see the volume of about $113,000 of donations, about $111,000 of expenditures. Most of all of which at that period went to the Barbary Park efforts and such. What we don't know, and sort of the unanswered question, is what the $1,392 is to go for from finance perspective. And part of that is because we acted as the city, much like a charitable entity, right? We took in donations for a purpose, and generally you follow the donor's reason on why they've given that money. So is that balance for Barbary Park? Is it, we don't have any good records that show what that's for. Now, there was a balance that existed in that art fund before we did the Barbary Park events and such. So I think really that money is usable. I don't know that anyone's going to become highly upset about, $1,400, being used for a public art venture. And I would, if you all want to use it for some purpose, I really encourage you to submit, which Ms. Starkey has the funding request form, which goes to council, right? Which tells us as staff, this expenditure is authorized for, whatever purpose. If you want to move it towards concerts or, I know you have some sculpture signs, banner projects, things like that. I think it can be used for any of that. I think the real caution with the Public Art Fund is being clear in the future on if we're going to take in donations, what exactly we're taking them in for. So that we don't end up in the problem area where we've got donors in the city at different ends on how we're intending to use that money and such. So just being very clear about that. So that's what you have. I'm happy to answer other questions about the Public Art Fund if you have any questions and all those things. So
I think in the last time, didn't we get in our budget, we were specified
Signs.
the signs and even what else was one? Oh, and the signs and the banners. I think that's all we had listed on our.
Signs are, and the banners we asked for a little bit, and with the
Well,
banners.
we have to wait.
Yeah,
We
we
get
have to wait.
people are gonna donate.
and you have $6,400 in the regular budget. So outside of the art fund, you have $6,400 in the budget.
Oh, that's good.
So you have 700 listed for the Lifetime Achievement Award, or reception, excuse me, 300 for Poetry Month, 500 for the Art Walk, 500 towards banners, and 4,400 for concerts. And generally, if you as a commission, let's say you're only going to do 3,000 in outdoor concerts this year, we allow you to say, okay, take that other 1,400, we want to use it towards this purpose. So just to give you a sense of what you have in the budget
Mhm.
outside of that 1,392 in the art fund.
So is it like if you go past one of these events that are listed and you have money left, that just stays in your
It doesn't stay. So every year it falls to the bottom line. So we're a zero-based budget, meaning that it doesn't build up year over
So
year.
we have to spend this in this.
You have to spend it or it just falls. And now that said, I think we have generally, this year, your budget is actually a little bigger than it was this coming year. It's a little bigger than it was this current year, which ends in 30 days, at the end of June. But, in general, the council's been supportive of restoring your budget year after year, and such. So, but yes, it does fall to the bottom line. So I mean, if you look at other commissions, I'll use green space for an example, they had $1,000. If they don't spend it, it'll go down. Now that said, the council again has put another $1,000 in for that commission, much like they've done with the Arts Commission.
I think you've used it like a slush fund.
Well, I was just wondering, could we then move it to the public art fund? Anything we didn't spend,
That would be a decision of the council. So
but we would ask.
you would ask the council, yeah. So it certainly can be done, but that's their decision if that, because once it's in that art fund, now it's considered a liability. We treat your art fund like your bank account is at the bank. We're the bank and it's a liability to us because we owe it back out for this purpose, right? So if you don't spend $5,000, that goes into the general savings of the city at the end of the day, and what we call the fund balance. So certainly the council can move it to the art fund, that's their decision, but I have to have council authorization to do that.
And I
Because of this, we've already done the research on how much signage would be. I think we should go ahead with it and spend it before it's gone.
We have that.
The signage, yeah, with the signage, so we'll do that for sure.
Judy had a
Oh,
question.
Judy has a question.
Well, no, I just wanted to be clear about the public art fund would stay, yeah, so. Is there any precedent for such a thing of taking unused budget and sort of setting it aside in a special fund?
Well, so we certainly have the fund balance and there are things. There's really not a direct precedent of taking the fund balance out and moving it to a special account, for a specific purpose. Now, we've taken fund balance out of the general fund and put it into other funds for other purposes. So like, a few years back, we needed to buy a new fire truck, I think it was, and we added money out of, the general fund into that. When one of the last large apparatus purposes, but I don't think exactly what you talked about here and moving it to the public art fund has been done. And again, that's, it can be done, I don't think it has been, so.
Right.
And then, so I have just two real quick questions. If we went through that process, could we just make it where it's an automatic thing at the end, any monies left over from our budget would automatically go into the public. Again, we could request something like that if, I'm just asking now.
Right.
We could do that on an automatic basis and not have to go every year towards the council.
So yes, you could write that legislatively and such, that I would, that's, again, would be, so council would need to at least act once on it, and put it in the policy resolution, so, but if it's ongoing, it could be done.
And then I just have one other question.
No problem, ask all the
In
questions.
my mind, since you mentioned donations, PO has to be for a specific thing. I've done, and I'm sure other people have here too, where you fill out a donation form and it's got a box that says, my donation goes to feed children or to whatever that group decides is the best, and they check either one. So is that something we could?
Yeah,
do
so
in the future?
absolutely, yes. So I think all of these are likely, the monies, for Barbary Park were put that way. This little bit of balance, we don't know simply because those records, that's what 5 years ago in our record system now, and those are gone, so.
So it could have been the balance that was in there before they.
It easily could have been,
started.
yes.
Okay.
So the difference being is that, because we hold this as donations, and what really my caution was is as we look to the future of that, right, is how do we ensure if we're going to act like a charitable donation type, a foundation, let me put it that way, that we ensure that what we're taking in gets put to those right purposes, so we don't end up crossways with donors, or that, there's an understanding with donors that, we're going to go to this purpose, but if we're done with that purpose, it may go, to keep the bunny rabbits here, whatever the world may be, so.
Has this been sent around, or could it be sent around what the current budget is, or showing what's been? Do we have to, can we appropriate the funds, or do they have to be expended in the next 30 days?
So they would need to be encumbered, or so if you're
Okay.
talking about moving it,
Encumbered.
yeah, if you're talking about
Okay.
moving it to the public art fund, like you are mentioning here. If you don't want to spend them immediately, then they would need, a request to council needs to be made. Otherwise, they need to be encumbered. So like the banners, the banners are this coming budget, but this current year you're in right now, which ends in the end of June. You would need to encumber them somehow. So if you've got, the sign program, right, we get a PO, a purchase order pulled, that's how we encumber those funds.
Yeah. So what has been encumbered from this budget? I haven't seen, this is only my second meeting,
Sure,
so
no.
I haven't seen the budget, I haven't seen.
Yeah, I don't think anything, the signs are from like 2 budgets ago, and those are still encumbered.
Right.
So.
We've been sitting on that. That project's
Yeah.
been sitting for some time. So that
The
money
banner.
takes a lot.
No, these are signs for like the sculpture garden and some of the other sculptures. Now we would have a sign that like explains it with a QR code that people could read more about each sculpture.
Okay.
Yeah,
The ultimate answer to your question, I don't know that anything from your current budget has been encumbered. There's been some expenses, I think, for the past year. You had your lifetime achievement award this past fall. Those expenses, I think Poetry Month that went out,
some flyers. and stuff.
such like that. And I think last year you put some money towards the concerts, if I'm correct. I can't remember it. The city.
Yes, there's like, I know that there's like the Piano Fest,
Yeah.
we always pay for the porta potties.
Right.
So there's that, and then the Burr Oak concert, which we can discuss later, because we got an email from them as well for next year.
So to clarify, the
Mhm.
6,400 in the seed budget, is that the annual or is that remaining from now until July
That's
first?
annual starting July.
Okay, so as of
I-
today,
I
what is
couldn't-
remaining?
Couldn't tell you what's remaining as of today. I can certainly look it up and get that answer for you. But I'm going to guess that you probably have about 3,000, a little more than 3,000.
That's about what the signs were. So the encumbered part,
Yeah.
it was around $3,000.
So why don't we make a decision and go ahead and do this, since we got July 1st, the deadline to spend this?
Well, it's, like I say, it's still protected because there's a PO, right?
For the signs, yeah,
I'm just afraid the signs, everything else goes up.
yeah.
The longer we wait, it might go up another 5%
Yeah.
or something. So we should get that ordered and
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Locked in.
matter. And I confess it's me, I have not had any time to make the websites that have information on each of the sculptures, it's been exceptionally busy lately, so.
I have a
need to
question
just do
about how
that.
the budget works then.
Sure.
When you say we've got about 3,000 existing in the current budget.
Yes,
Signs are encumbered for roughly 3,000, so is that considered spent or what is, yes, what is,
So,
okay,
yes.
so really we have nothing.
no,
For
you
this.
do. So I want to be
Okay.
clear about the
Okay.
signs. The signs funding is
Uh-huh.
encumbered from about I think it was the 21 budget. So those funds exist. They are encumbered, meaning they're held for that purpose. We consider them spent, but the signs haven't been ordered. That project is just there. And so that money, that 3,000 for the signs is not the 3,000 that you have existing in the 23 budget.
Okay.
That was money given to you last July, through this year, that hasn't been spent yet in this year.
Would it be possible to encumber, say, another 1,000 of those? We're worried about escalating
Sure.
costs, so let's give ourselves some
We
room.
easily can expand.
also this would be perfect time to go to the council and get it, to be moved into the public art fund.
So about that idea, okay, I would, at this point, as if the commission were to vote on choosing to go to the council requesting that, I would not support that. I could be convinced otherwise, but I don't want to set a precedent for doing that for other commissions because of the fiscal constraints that we're under right now.
I don't know if that would affect any other commissions. would it?
That choice would not affect any other commission, but it would set a precedent that could then, other commissions could then start to follow.
So a couple of initial thoughts to that, and I'm speaking solely for myself because I don't know what other council members would think. One, in terms of the budget constraints, it's not the best time to ask for things not to go back to zero. But two, calling on my political scientist background, often what happens in those kinds of situations, unless you all have a plan for how you're going to spend what's in the fund, council has sort of an incentive then to reduce your annual allocation based on how you accumulate in the
Exactly.
funds you have. So I would really think through what you want to do with the fund, so that's defined before saying to council, can we just start storing this money away? Again, my own personal reflection, not council generally.
No, that's the way the university always worked, the same way too, it's always zero sum budgeting, and you spent your money to the last dime if you could, because if you didn't spend it, you wouldn't. In one case, you wouldn't get the same amount back. Yeah, because, oh, you don't need it so much because you're not spending it so much, but to say that I'm just gonna keep saving it for something else. That was sticky.
Well, since we've done all the research and on how much it would cost on different companies, you did that, didn't you, John?
Your signs, yeah, that's
Yeah,
all done.
And we decided on which one
Yeah.
we had suggested.
Graphic cutter.
Yeah, so since that's been done, I can't see why we can't continue and go ahead and get the signage.
No, that's all set. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, we don't, I don't have the content for the signs. Like, we know how much the signs cost, but I don't have anything to put on them, and I can create that. But that takes a lot, takes a lot of time, and so I'm just not, it's been on my list and I just haven't been able to, and like, even there's photos, like I would need maybe photos of each
Yeah.
sign to put on the website, and I have photos of maybe 2 signs.
Do
Two
you
of the-
turn that over to
sculptures.
some members of the commission? Because we did for the art walk, I mean, we
Yeah.
generated essentially the label copy, the essential title, art, you know, dates, all that.
Okay.
That need, right?
Yes.
Could that be a subgroup of the commission that takes?
Yeah,
over
I mean,
that
if
task?
someone would be willing to get the photos together, that would be super helpful.
Mhm.
Wasn't Beth doing a lot of photography?
I thought Beth was working on that, right?
I
Yes.
didn't, I'm
She
here.
also would.
Oh,
That's
Beth.
here, that's here.
Oh, that's here, okay.
Yeah,
I think
I
she would
did,
have all the content. that will
I
happen.
have some content from
I
Beth.
handed
It's
over the
just-
content and Don took photos and they were in a file that I handed over as well. At some point, I have to go back and look because it was like an Apple Drive file and at the time I had a PC, so I asked
Okay,
him
because
to
I
put it
did
in a-
get the content emailed from you. I don't have those photos, so I'll have
Okay,
to
I
look
can
and
try
see.
to go back and look at the photos and maybe we can recontact Don to see if he still had them, but he did go and take photos of, I don't know if he had, I'm not sure how, I know he had all of them in the sculpture garden.
Okay,
Yeah, all of there's like at the
It's pretty
heading of
much-
each,
we were gonna do the sculpture garden, and then additionally, we were asked if we could do the Barbary Park sculpture, which I have photos of, so that would be easy enough. And I would have to round up the artist information. I know we've got that somewhere from the brochures when we did the sculpture.
And the ones at the pool area,
Yes,
those too. So if we have $3,000, we could get with the sign company, add those signs in there and be able to buy those as well.
okay,
And we definitely should do it now, because we got plenty of money. Let's get that
Yeah.
going for sure.
well, I
Yeah.
wonder too if it would, some companies allow you to kind of prepay, and even if we don't have our full order in, if we say like we are ordering this many signs and we still need to get you the content, I wonder if in this budget session we could prepay
Yeah,
so that we're
Yeah,
not
I
worried
can call
about,
them and ask about prepaying.
yeah, and then we can take a little bit more time to actually get the
Right.
content and get them generated.
Yeah,
You could add the sign, the number of signs you need for the ones up by the pool area,
yeah,
and just then go forward. You know,
yeah.
accept the bid and we have the money already earned.
So I move we make this decision. Let's go.
Can I get that?
Let's
more
just do it.
Somebody in
specific?
second.
Yeah.
I'm voting for.
How much do we need to, if we are currently encumbered for the signs we already have gotten the bid for, how much additional do we need to
Exactly.
encumber and put that into our motion?
Thanks.
So,
Yeah.
and then if the bid is below what we've encumbered, does that money just automatically go back to the budget? I mean, just so we're
So
not. just
once the project is done, PO is closed and whatever's left falls back into the budget. It goes, well, I want to be clear, your project's likely gonna end after the fiscal year ends, so it would just fall back to what we call the city savings, like one balance.
And to your point, I think the signage, I've been through it with a number of times, so sometimes it goes up per the sign, other times it might drop if you get to a certain.
Right.
number, you
Right.
know. So the number, I don't think that was included would be the rabbit and the three, Brother Mill sculptures. Now we
So
can,
everything in the park.
So how many
So that'd be-
signs were in the original?
15, I think.
15, and we're talking about another.
And this
4.
is off the top of my head, I don't remember
Okay.
exactly, but it was around 15, so you'd have to add 3 more, but I think you could get an estimate from him. We could say now, move 1,200, let's just say, to that signage,
for the addition.
because if we don't spend all of that, it
Right.
reverts right back anyway.
Right.
And then we say that we're not gonna go over it.
Mhm,
But if we did, we have the next year's
mhm.
budget coming to pull some from it. So that's what we could do today, as I'm saying, is just
Yeah.
pick a number.
1,200.
Yeah, well, I think that'd be plenty,
Mhm.
you know, since it's a little over 3,000 now for roughly 15 sign, I think it was right around $200, and that was a sign and stick, and at one point we were
Public Works
finding out
gonna
if
install,
Public
they
Works
will
could install
install
it.
it, so we won't have to pay for installation.
Right,
fees.
right.
So,
I thought it was 10 or 11 we originally.
so somebody needs to move that we encumber an additional $1,200 to go towards signage for sculptures, for public sculpture.
Is that our official?
Janice, so moved.
Somebody would be you.
So, yeah, so I so move. If that's-
Somebody second that?
Second.
I second. Oh.
You got 2 seconds, that's 4. Smiley up.
Do we need to
Clap,
vote?
everyone's fine.
You're not doing my math.
Do we need to vote?
We do.
We do.
Yeah, let's all vote on that. Here are the ayes for that.
Aye.
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 And again, if we don't spend it, it goes right back to savings. Okay.
Correct.
Beth, was that an aye from you? You were muted, I'm assuming, yeah.
Yes, I.
Okay,
I think Jan's left.
Jan's, I think Jan was making this.
Can I just go back to our budget though? So we are a month before the budget closes. And we still have something on the order of 3,000 left, is what you think?
Now about 1,800.
Yeah.
We've just
Well,
put
we've just-
1,200 over.
But we didn't budget for this year, including that 1,200. So I'm just sort of curious what we didn't do. Were we super efficient in our spending? Did we give less for the concerts? Why do we have so much left over? Do we know?
To my mind, I don't believe that you used as much on the concerts as you had in the past years, so. I mean, there are, I think in past years, you've given more direct financial contribution, and this past year, I think you had more, you purchased the porta potties, things like that, you know,
Right.
more supplies or helpful things rather than here's cash. So, now that said, the council, as of yet, they haven't adopted the budget yet, but the manager put in, the same request for you this year, and the council, I have heard no one talk about reducing that or changing that fund. So,
I have to admit that I have a really difficult time doing math in my head without a spreadsheet in front of me of what I'm actually looking at and talking about with numbers. Is it possible?
to get this current year's budget where you're at?
Yeah, just for, especially for those of us who are new, to look at what the spending trend was previously, to be able to contemplate spending trends going forward in terms of like, well, okay, generally we spend this much, this much, this much. Okay, so now this is the wild card money that if we wanted to do something new next year, we would have a sense of what was available to be innovative versus the traditional. So, I mean, that would just help. It would help me, I know.
I think I missed the last meeting. Did you bring an actual line item budget?
I did not.
Yeah, maybe that's the
Okay.
I think
process we
that's
could
what-
use in
yes.
the,
So
going
we
forward.
can easily
Yeah.
bring you, we can pull, I should say. Back that up. We can provide you, obviously, your budget.
Right.
The trends in the past, yes, it'll take us a few moments because we'll have to extract, all the boards and commissions are together, so we just need to pull your transactions out and then give you that.
Oh, I understand that. I'm just really grateful, especially as I say, we have some newbies here
Sure.
and oftentimes when I hear historical accounts of what we've done, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not connected to that thus far, so that would be incredibly helpful.
Not a problem, can do, and I'll send them to Starkey to send you all the current budget for this year, so you can see the transactions, which you have. to do.
Great. Thank you so much.
Excuse me, for 20
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Well, and probably, yeah.
for 23 as well.
Yeah.
Do that, yes.
Yeah.
The trend of where you've been, I think.
Yeah, generally, the events have not changed for a number of years. That's why I'm saying you're right in fact. That some of it's been on so long, so you're already having to.
Yeah, yeah, and that's completely
Spreadsheets, you know, we have this concert,
yeah.
so I think it would be, that's a great idea to get out. Maybe it'll just be on a regular basis, you know.
That would be really
Yes.
helpful, so we
Yeah.
can all keep track of what we
Would help
have,
everybody.
what's been spent and what.
Yeah, because as I'm taking all my little notes with all the little numbers, it's
And the sheet, updated sheet coming with
Yeah.
this material every month,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Here we are, what we've spent, what we've got left.
I just feel like it's more responsible for us to kind of know specifically what we're doing.
And going back to this, switching money, just for a second, switching money to the public art fund, a lot of the public art that we look at. The expenses pretty much, you know, and then there's another expense. Install it, so, you know, it's like if the Parks and Commission were saving for parks in a way. You know, how would you get to that point? Oh, we want to put a park at this corner. You know, we start putting money away for that, knowing it's going to cost us, you know, $500,000, or we just wait until we have all the stuff together and then try to get $500,000. You know what I mean? So that's what I was just trying to say. Is there a way to, and obviously it looks like there isn't, you know, to kind of earmark that money for future.
Well, I
desires,
mean,
you know?
I would say, like, you would approach a project, you would develop an ideal budget for the project, and then you'd look at, you know, an upcoming fiscal year appropriation to the council, you'd look at external grants that could maybe go towards the, we don't have a 501c3, but you know, but there could be grants available to municipalities. You would look for, and then you have the fund and you would specifically fundraise for that specific project, but you have to come up with a project first, and then you figure out how to get the funds for it.
Yeah, that's how we.
Excuse me, I have to leave now, so just not going to disappear. So I have another meeting. See you later. Jenny, if you want to just report on what I wrote to you about my meeting with Josephine Weil, the email, that would be
Yes.
pretty much. Okay, ciao.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, thank you.
If I can, on the public art fund, so names drive a lot of what we do here at the city, right? So it's called the Public Art Fund. I want to be clear, if you all want to go to council and say, we should change this to a fine arts fund or just an art fund, right? I mean, you can ask council to do that, right? I mean, names sort of box in our minds, what's the purpose of this thing that we're dealing with? So I just bring that up. And then also, I think you brought up a great point. I mean, the sculpture Barbary Park was really a great example. The Public Art Fund had a purpose in that moment. You know, we swelled to meet that purpose. The donations were brought in really to support a public asset. You're absolutely right, and about the grants and the 501c3 nature. I mean, we can be the receiving end of some, but it's a lot easier to have a 501c3, and it's really something as staff that I look at about how do we, my mind. And I'm not sure if Webster Arts is even interested, but I'll just say it. You know, how do we really engage with them in a way that cities don't do becoming the charitable donation holder very well? It's not something that's in our strength, right? But if there is a foundation type purpose that Webster Arts or someone else can hold, that's a great thing to have. And the city should be a partner with them, right, towards city public art or just private events that we want to support to better the quality of life. And those are relationships that I firmly believe in us formalizing and really strengthening, right? And how do we have a partner that can take in private donations, that there's never a question about tax exempt status, there's never a question about its purpose, and it goes to fulfill a much broader purpose than just simply art that may be happening in our space, but really, you know, larger quality of life.
So when the Barbary Park was placed, people there was a purpose, groundswell of support to put this piece into Barbary Park.
Yeah.
So with the money that was raised, was the money spent for the piece itself? Did the Parks Department pay for installation? How does that, I mean, so if we were to work with the Webster Arts,
Sure.
what could they support, what would we need?
So so the answer is, if it's on our property,
Uh-huh.
everything is available, right? We can support it, they can support it, we can all work together. If it's on private property, right, I mean, the council can still put that money, towards a public purpose, even if it sits on private property. I'll use, well, that's not a great example, so let me step that back, but, if you can find a way to make that work, right? There's not a lot of limits on that. The difference is having a charitable entity on the other side is that you don't have the government in the midst of how that money is being spent and where it's going towards, right? You're really just talking about if we're asking the council to say, we're going to give $10,000 to support this event, that if, as long as it's got a public purpose, we can make that justification. And whereas a private entity, even though they're a charitable foundation or entity or such, really can enhance what you can do with other things that add to it. So.
And Barbary was in conjunction with Webster too, because we all combined to support each other and.
Yeah,
that's
but
how
I
it came
think
about.
the specific answer to your question is, as my understanding is, the public art fund money did go to the sculpture itself. We got some parks support to do the lighting and some of the pathways. So it isn't necessarily that the public art fund would have to do everything if it's on public property. There are other departments that can, Public Works is gonna put in the signs.
But the private money can always, I call it private money, but that entity, the idea of an outside entity, a charitable arm, that's taking it, they can add to that in any way, as long as whoever owns the property is all agreed to what we're doing. Could be the same for events as well, right? I mean, it's really, private events that you want to support that add to the quality of life. I mean, how do we, merge and help bring in more resources to that?
So are we talking more about specific partnerships for specific projects versus an ongoing partnership collaboration?
I think it could be both, but.
It's a very different relationship that we're encumbered to, depending on, it's a leap of faith, I guess.
It is in many ways. What I was talking about was really a much longer term vision, right? Because you had talked about.
Well, I like
how do we
long-term
create-
vision.
Yes, about how do you have a set of money set aside for arts, but you don't know exactly what you're going to do
Right,
with that in the arts, right? And that's a tough thing for governments to sit on, and when the
Yes.
budgets get tough to not see that.
absolutely.
Right? And so how do you have an entity and a relationship with an entity that's formalized that
Mhm.
can help do that, right? And hold that kind of purpose without necessarily.
Right, but then that, what you're telling me from what you said earlier is then that the specific purpose of that fund would have a mission.
Right, there would be.
Essentially,
yeah,
you would
there'd
have
be
to have a mission statement
Exactly.
and and who gets to vote. And
We wouldn't
yeah,
want to have to,
Yeah, we have
the
to-
question is,
that's a
we don't
long
want to
term.
establish a 501c3 when there are other.
Exactly, no,
C3s that
I
we
get
could-
it, I
yeah.
get it, but it's a question, and you could have different partners presumably for different kinds of activities within the city. Because there's some other institutions in the city
And
besides,
you are on the board for Webster Arts.
Yes, I just started.
And Marilyn, you're still on the board?
Well, should we kind of then talk about the Borough email that we received last night?
Why don't we?
Since
Because it is
yeah,
related
would
to
be-
events.
funding and
It would
everything.
be relevant to this.
So I can read the email. This email came last night, and it came from Margot Parks.
and after you read it, could you send us an email copy of it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it came.
No, I
like
understand, no,
half an
I'm
hour
just saying,
before
no,
we
I get
started.
it, I'm just saying,
Um,
so I can reflect.
Yeah,
I am writing to speak for the support of Webster Groves and Webster Arts for our next Borough Oak event on July 14th. I know you have a meeting this morning and unfortunately I will not be able to Zoom because of my work commitment and Walter is traveling. I hope because of our short history, this event will be on your radar and interest. I'd like to ask for your support again, as in the past through volunteers, promotions, filing any permits, etc. This year, because of our time and budget, we would like to have the stage at the end of Poplar with the audience's ability to spill out into the park. We have lights on the Borough Oak and of course Poplar. If we receive a $5,000 donation, we could move it to the Liberty Tree Borough Oak, but we would need to know this week. Without that support commitment, we are getting creative. We are partnering with the Green Space Advisory and other park groups and applying to some grants with them to help cover artist expenses. Any money donated or that more pays for this year will be saved for next year. Our theme is Borough Oak Branches. We will work with local performers I've already started conversations with Kendrick Smith Quartet, several other performers to be a part of that evening. There's also going to be a collaborative with local visual artists. We'll be asking for submissions for poster and t-shirt design. And that's essential. There's a lot of the nuts and bolts with the rest of it, verbal approval from the new neighbors, other details she's happy to discuss, but essentially Baroque, for the newer folks, how many years in a row have
It's,
we?
I think we've had 3 now.
Three now, and
Yes.
Webster Arts has co-sponsored each year. I don't know if we've done it to the extent of $5,000 though, that's what.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Sorry,
So know if have we done money with that?
No.
I think it's done
No,
volunteers and.
the Parkers
support.
usually did most of everything.
Yeah,
Everything else was volunteer.
Can we back up a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in Larson Park, there's a large historic Baroque tree.
Oh, yeah.
At the foot
Oh,
of the
thank
tree,
you.
the stage.
Baroque. like
Yeah,
you
right.
said,
Well, that
Baroque.
was, here was Baroque.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So this
Baroque
is
and
the
Baroque.
concert that typically
Thank
has
you.
taken place at the foot of the tree. They want to do it at the end of the street. I think that means they don't have to build the stage in the same way.
Yeah.
So it's a Larson Park concert.
Larson Park
That was-
concert,
okay.
free, I believe, and open to the public.
It is free and open to
Yeah.
the public.
But that's gonna change the whole feeling.
well,
Anyway.
Yeah, it's not
the
mine.
whole
How
idea-
long have they been doing this?
if I read her,
This would
thing,
be
if
the
she
third.
gets them,
Third year.
if she gets the donation, they'll move it back to the tree. Right? Isn't that what the email said?
Oh,
That's how
yeah.
I
Well,
understood it.
of a
Because they
certain
need to
amount.
buy, they need to build the
The stage.
stage.
Yeah.
Okay,
So if they don't get enough money, reading that email, what it sounded to me is they're still gonna have it, but it would be at the end of the street with lights on the tree.
Okay,
Right.
can I make one thing clear about this? She's really asking for 2 things here.
Yeah,
She's asking for the sponsorship from the Arts Commission. You all have a limited number of those. And then she's also asking for any financial donation that is possible. Eric, you want to talk about what comes with the sponsorship
Sure.
of the event?
yeah, that was my next.
So
Yeah,
when
he's
the
better.
commission says that they are sponsoring an event, right? That takes that event out of needing to pay for city services. Now, this is obviously a closure of the city street and the use of the park. So normally, Mr. Park, they're great people and such, but it's, you know, if they were a private citizen and wanted to do this and it wasn't a city event, they pay for a park rental to use that space. They pay for any of our no parking signs, they pay for barricades, all the things that you would pay for to use the public right of way in a public space. When we say it's a city sponsored event, your commission sponsors the arts fair, the big one that just happened, so that exempted them from having to pay for all the things except the police overnight security, but they didn't pay for no parking signs and trash cans and such. When we say that happens, they get all those things for free from the city, out of, you know, the city's donation to public purpose. You get 2 of those a year as a commission,
Ah, thank you.
so.
well, then I move
How many? and
that
we
we
did one
support
this fiscal year.
What, hang on.
the Baroques.
I mean, I don't know your question.
So, yeah, so we say you got 2, so this is gonna be in July. Well, really, we look at
This would be the
calendar.
first one for the
So,
new fiscal
We don't
year.
even talk about fiscal years, these are calendar year.
Oh, these are calendar.
Yeah, calendar year. operations. So, sorry,
Yeah.
the
Well-
permits, so it's really, you've had one now already. So the real question becomes Piano Fest.
And that is under Mike Silverman.
Right, and
We
so
don't have that much control on that, and I don't
Right.
think he wants us to be involved this year.
that's fine, and so I mean, I'm just, you could still give the porta potties and
Yeah.
give money, I'm just saying it's a difference of. When we have to do things like go take out no parking signs and all the things we have to do with the permit, whether or not they get that free from us or
Yeah,
not, that's.
Piano Fest would have to be like some support given by Webster Arts
Sure.
Commission rather than co-sponsored by Webster Arts if we about porta potties.
And
Just
so
like
historically,
Florida
what
Fest.
has this commission sponsored the arts
Yeah.
fair?
Yeah, and you have sponsored this in the past, Baroque, this
Okay,
event.
we have sponsored
But
this.
then also you've sponsored on the Edges Piano Fest. You've had a little bit of growth into 3 there, and that's been, you know, we have formalized the policy there, so I'm just saying it's 2 now. That's what council has said. Everyone's got 2, so.
So as long as we support them, or
You
at
can
least
say you're sponsored.
acknowledge it, then they get the public.
Yes,
I
And
think
then
we
they're
should
done
do
for
that.
then they're done, then this commission is done for the rest of the fiscal year.
You-
So in terms of
I mean,
sponsorship,
Yeah, in terms of sponsorship, and so there's no other activities in the fall.
Have we ever sponsored Jazz Fest? No.
Well, we don't know. That's up in the air too.
Yeah,
That's a whole change in
So
leadership.
administration.
I want to be clear about the word sponsor. I'm not talking, you can give money to many different concerts and events.
I get it.
But yes, Jazz Fest is, don't worry about them with city events. They're already taken care of on the permit side that I'm talking about. This
Yeah.
idea of getting them out of the city cost.
and also keep in mind, this is not the only commission that sponsors events.
Right.
So, Green Space is a partner, sustainability is a partner in events as
It's been a
well.
jazz festival, you have that chamber down there too.
Yeah.
Old Webster's.
Old Webster concert.
Yeah. And then do we have, the sponsorship, is that come out of our budget or the fees just waived?
Literally, because you are a city entity and sponsoring it, the city just waives the city cost to us to support that event.
Okay.
So.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
In that email, did it say they were already working with the Green Space Commission?
it did
Sounds
say that. It
So I'm
said,
wondering if that could be strategic in terms of like, if they would sponsor this one and then we'd have another option to sponsor something else. I don't know how that works, but just a thought, if you said that we're not the only commission that can assume sponsorship. of it.
Beth, I haven't heard from Green Space that they are sponsoring it. I don't know. Historically you have, I think their work with Green Space is probably, knowing Green Space, more about education of natural space and life in that area. So
information about the tree.
I don't want to speak for Green Space, but I just don't know that this is in their bailiwick of sponsoring. They may be, I don't know.
Given that we have two here, have there been in the past other events that we've had to turn down because our sponsorships have been used up by mid-year?
Not that I'm aware of, and in general, like Piano Fest for a couple of years, we've sort of fudged and just, made it happen. But I don't think you've turned down anyone. In general, folks have, you have always historically, Webster Arts is a massive event that you want to support, the arts fair, obviously. And that when this one came up 2 years ago, it had a lot of steam, which is really good, and really a lot of support for supporting. And I spoke at the first one. It was an amazing event.
Yeah.
And they do good work. So.
And I think it's growing each year, other 3 years.
It was the Baroque, and then Baroque Roots, and then this would be Baroque Bridges.
Branches. Bridges in next year.
Yeah, after you cut the tree.
To Beth's point about maybe green space, just as a matter of process, green space met yesterday, so they don't meet again in the time frame that the parks are asking for information for. That doesn't mean that you all can't agree and then we find out green space wants to be the sponsor and pull that back. I just think probably they need information faster than we can turn that around from the Green Space Commission.
Yeah,
That's what it sounds like to me, if she sent the email this morning, so.
so I guess there's two parts to it. One, are we gonna sponsor? And two, are we gonna provide a financial donation? If so, how much?
So why don't we move on this, sponsorship?
On this
first?
one, we should go to that or
Yeah.
somebody want to bring that up.
I move that we use our second sponsorship to support the Larson Park Borough Oak.
Okay.
Second. So vote. Everybody against or for it?
Aye.
Anybody
Aye.
against?
Jan, are you okay if we
Sounds cool.
co-sponsor Baroque?
Say yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
not if-
All in favor, okay.
So now, getting to the money, I mean, we don't have $5,000.
No,
But
No,
with, I guess my mental math, we have about $1,800 left.
So this will be after July 1.
next year.
So you
So
have a
these
big
are-
budget. You have that
But
money.
then we
But
have
can't we
money now.
It'll
appropriate,
be encumbered.
can't we?
You can encumber some if you want now.
Encumber?
Yeah, you could encumber.
Write her a check right now, today,
Yeah,
Aaron.
exactly.
Well, I mean.
So you could, yes. And then you do have money after July 1 as well. Then you have 4,400 starting July 1 for outdoor concerts.
Oh,
I thought it was 64.
6,400 is the total. 4,400 was earmarked towards outdoor
outdoor
concerts.
concerts, and the porta potties usually cost 400 for Piano Fest, so if we wanted to say 4,000. For Baroque,
Okay, can I would back up? I
Yeah.
thought we have 3,000,
That's
about
kind of-
3,000 left.
Yeah.
In this current budget, which ends in July, you have about 3,000 left. Which starting in July, what, that doesn't roll over, so
Right.
we've taken 1,200 out of that, so you've got about 1,800 left.
That's what I wanted to get to.
Yeah, we have
Could
money.
could we give that 1,800 as a donation?
5,000.
I know they went 5,000, but we gave 18 and
They can get.
we
what they
could
can
talk
get.
about
That's kind
something
of
art
where I'm
fund
at.
of 13.
And then the
Which
other
would-
question I had is, would we be basically committing already, kind of committing ourselves to something comparable next year? That budget.
Not by doing it this year, you wouldn't.
Yeah,
You're not committing the city in any way.
Right,
But the
but I
point is,
just
if you create some that's between you and the
It's that
parks. to talk about.
expectation is what, exactly, managing expectations.
Yeah.
so there is and I apologize, I don't know what we've spent on Baroque in the past. But if we had a request for 4,400 for outdoor concerts, I'm assuming. I just kind of renew what's been done every year, so I'm assuming that some sort of donations were made to outdoor concerts in the past, so I'm wondering if, I just know I. Remember last year calling the porta potty company and ordering those porta potties for next door, and it was about $400. So that's making me wonder, if we request 4,400 each year for outdoor concerts, then what was that 4,000 then for? Was that something
Yeah.
that we've given to Baroque?
I wonder
in
if
the past?
that's the 3,000 that's left. We don't,
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
we never really spent outside of porta potties
Yeah.
or.
Yeah, it's hard
You
to.
know,
know.
signs.
Without,
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 Yeah,
without
without
our
that.
budget.
without the Excel spreadsheet.
At one point, do you all remember that we were supposed to be reimbursing Mike? And I think the amount was about $3,000.
and that
I
was
don't know that
reimbursing
that-
who?
Mike Silverman.
Mike
Silverman, okay.
Silverman.
Who is Mike Silverman?
He
Like-
plans
Piano
Piano
Fest.
Fest,
Thank you.
and Piano Fest happens next door. And it's in
And I remember
August.
Patrick was they had kind of an agreement that Patrick would help with Patrick would come to the commission and ask for help with funding the event even after Mike had paid for it. So I believe there was I think it was about 3,000 that we were going to supply to him. Now, whether that happened or not, I don't know, but that's maybe why that budget is like that.
We still have it, so I guess it didn't happen.
Yeah, I
So
don't think.
we have not received any invoice or request, and such, so.
No, yeah,
And that's been, what, since August?
August of last year, so I don't think he's gonna come and ask for 3, yeah.
Um,
So
That would be
I'm just
cheap.
asking, do we want to use the 1,800 from this year, or do we want to use some of the money that we have actually set aside for outdoor concerts? After
Or
July,
combo platform.
well, if they need, if they're asking for 5,
yeah,
we get 18 left in this year.
mhm,
Then 32 would only could come out from the next.
How many outdoor
Yeah,
concerts
yeah.
did we, I mean, because I have no
That's
clue
what's-
what was,
Yeah.
how many concerts we did, what was
I need
spent on
numbers.
each.
The only 2 concerts we've ever supported are Baroque, that I'm aware of in recent history, is Baroque and Piano Fest.
Okay.
So,
So there were two.
So in other words, if we're giving support to these, they're actually saving. What, 3,000 because of you don't have to pay for the porta potty, you don't have to pay for the use of it. And so we're actually saving them money
Which
by
is a
just
donation.
supporting them.
I'm going to guess that they already built that into their thoughts, even asking.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know. I had this nagging little voice in my head about expectations from historic commitments that we've made. You know, and then how do we carve out enough for if we want to do something new?
mhm.
For new people, and it's hard for me to think about that in this moment without having a sense of looking at more concrete and not audio information.
I understand that, we can provide that for you. Your historic, I just know enough to know in the last 2
Of
years,
course.
Yeah,
you've not spent your entire budget ever. In some years.
yeah,
That is bad budget.
Baroque and Piano Fest are relatively new.
Yeah,
Concert
okay.
events and
Okay.
I don't believe.
Well, that's
we've ever-
helpful.
Yeah, and I don't think we've ever, I don't know that we've ever given up. Of
course, in the last 3
$5,000
years,
mark of what
it's
they're
been
talking
Well, there's
about,
that.
yeah,
but that said,
And upcoming, there'll be more.
so just give you a sense, I mean.
No,
there
that's
are-
helpful.
yeah,
Well, the sponsorship is worth money to
Oh, yeah.
people putting on this concert, so I'm saying, maybe we don't have to go to the full
No, that's
five.
fine.
Exactly.
If we sponsor it and give them the
Right.
1,800,
Okay,
you know,
Is
and then we still have
Next
the
year.
next month,
Mhm.
we can allocate more out of the new budget. If
Yeah.
they still need to get closer to that 5. Is that-
But the concert is taking place when?
July 15th.
So that'd be,
14th.
yeah, that'd be
So it would
really
have to
tight
be-
for them to.
They would have to come to us the first meeting of July.
Yeah. Is
Right.
there
Yeah.
any provision within this commission or any of our commissions where after we all see the budget, get a sense of what we have spent and what's available, that we may be able to perhaps vote on spending the 1,800 that we do have left now, and then
So,
via email, take a vote on if anything else, or a Zoom, have a Zoom
You
meeting
can,
to
you can
spend.
have a special meeting anytime you want. So if you want to have later in June, you look at all that and say, let's spend some more money and Eric, July 2, send them a
Yeah,
check
I
for
would,
this
I would
one.
feel much more comfortable making decisions about next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
Budget
with an
numbers.
annual budget of about 6,500, I would say that I wouldn't want to set a precedent of trying to figure out how to get them $5,000.
Yeah.
I agree, yeah. I agree.
In general.
That just,
No, I'm-
But we have our, but we could set aside a specific concert fund within the arts fund and work on public communication and
Yeah.
fundraising to help, Burr Oak and Canafest, if that's what we would choose to do. So I would be in favor of moving to appropriate, encumber a certain amount, the remainder of our budget, since we only have 30 days left,
Okay,
and hope that is very helpful to them.
I would have another thing to add to that is when we issue this sponsorship that we have, which we have 2 of them.
Mhm.
I would suggest we determine that dollar value, you know what I mean, whatever that is for the police and signs in the park. You know, that we can
Yeah.
put a figure on that. So if we're sponsoring Burr Oak, that's worth maybe $2,000. I don't know what it is, but I mean, there's a figure there. So if somebody says, you know, we need X number of dollars, you say, well, we have a sponsorship we can do, which is worth this, and now we'll be able to give you this much more, $1,800 in this case. But that's what we can do for you, you know?
I think what we need is a list of what the city can help with for these sponsored people so that they don't have to go out and with private money.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
This-
exactly.
This sponsoring turns
And
on.
they have a list of what the services are. Yeah,
So they do, they'll have to fill out a special activity permit, it's built
Okay.
right in. So, yeah, they'll see it, but there's not a dollar value attached, but we can certainly put that together.
If we
I
wanted.
don't want to interrupt. I'm gonna have to jump off in a few minutes, but I just wanted to chime in and say that I agree that giving the encumbered funds to Burr Oak would be a solid plan. I think that it's unusual that we have 2 committed people that are so invested in putting on an art show and in our community, and I'd like to support them with that.
so then if we say, if mods was a motion, and is that a second? Like, do we want to vote on the 1,800 before somebody else leaves, and we might not have
Quorum.
quorum?
Beth, do you want a second? I'm
Sure, I
sitting-
second.
Okay.
Okay, we have the ayes for this? Anybody agree?
Aye.
yeah, spend the money.
Looks like unanimous.
Okay,
And secondly, would people be open to, if we can have any special
Thanks,
Zoom
Beth.
meeting, would people be open to a Zoom meeting once we have budget numbers and then take a look at what's been done to see if, you know, what did we spend with them last year? And have a discussion about next year's budget, before we commit anything from that budget, and do that this month.
What I would,
Oh, I think, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we'll meet like July, right?
Right, but if
Yeah.
we're going to give them any money, are we going to give them any, if we think that. We have no idea how much we gave them last year. We don't know whether we gave
I
them
don't-
1,800 or whether we gave them
We don't know that
3,000.
you
I
gave
don't think we gave them any.
Oh, we didn't give them any money
No,
last year.
No.
We did volunteer
Right.
of people.
Oh, okay.
And to the designation as the event.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
And
So-
that was
so-
almost the same as with the piano.
Okay,
See, all of it has been individuals that have brought it together themselves.
okay.
And the city itself never really supported it. We just wanted it, and a lot of us just volunteered. Now, if we support it, they don't have to worry about these extra expenses,
Right, I was
which
just
makes it
wondering
even
about
better.
cash. even. So,
Yeah.
okay, so we gave them no cash.
I know they're asking.
And it sounds like we had expected to give Piano Fest $3,000, but they never came to claim it.
Right. So maybe he figured he's very civic minded, and maybe he
Yeah,
just said, you
he's-
know, this was pretty good, I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, and
It's kind of-
So
so
I'm,
now so to recap, $1,200 has gone
Mhm.
into the signage, correct, to
Yeah.
cover a sign on every piece of sculpture that we own, right?
Yes,
So, and $1,800 is being earmarked to Baroque
yes.
plus sponsorship.
Mhm.
Which is a dollar amount, we don't exactly know what that is yet, but we're gonna find that out, okay?
Might I
Just wanted to recap
suggest
those items.
that before worrying about when to schedule a special meeting or waiting to July, that someone talk to the parks and say, this is the 18 we're turning over. We are open to considering some more money. How soon do you need to know that kind of thing?
We're gonna meet with Parks and Rec.
No, the parks,
going to
Walter
park
and
thing.
Margo.
Yeah, Walter and Margo would do,
Oh,
oh,
I'm
that's what I meant, sorry. Too many names and
Yeah,
entities.
And this is a flexible type of thing.
yeah.
You know, we never know if somebody else is gonna come up with another event
project that we.
that relates to the arts.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what our job to get together and,
Yeah.
you know, to look at that.
I can
side, because this is obviously, they put themselves out for those other ones and they're very successful.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I think people would be looking for it if it didn't happen, you know what I mean? Citizens.
I can reach
And
out
it's
to
great
Margo.
service.
I've got her phone number on this email and let her know what we decided today.
Yeah, and Jenny, if you don't have time today, I can do that. too.
Okay. Okay.
Would it help too, since the dollar amount is not what they want, is could we quickly kind of put together about what that sponsorship is worth money wise? I mean, they could
I mean, I
probably
can't
figure
do
it
that.
out as well.
Alright.
But
You
they
know,
sponsored it
exactly.
last year as well, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
So these are, so
No, no,
they-
we didn't sponsor
No, no,
it.
so these events, yes, so.
Yes,
Since
so-
the
We
beginning,
did Piano Fest and,
we did Baroque last time.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
And-
so, so
and
they're,
the first.
so in their mind, we can tell them what this value is, but they've already considered that outside of the.
But as somebody giving things to people, it's nice to tell them
It
what
is.
you're giving.
It
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I think, it doesn't hurt, you
It
know.
is.
They haven't submitted their permit yet, so I don't know exactly what they want, which goes to the value, but I can ballpark them the value of what we've given them in the past.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
ballpark. is
Something
really-
that could be considered and if financing this is okay, is if they want to give us a detailed line item of what their expenses are and
Yeah.
where their gap in funding is. I'm not committing anything, but we can always consider the art fund.
No, I agree. Like if they come back, because it's in a public area and it's
But I
free, so
wanna
it's
know-
essentially public art, even if it's not.
This is a
Sculpture.
friendly ask, and to go into that, I would want to see detailed line items, and they may not be able to provide that in time.
Yeah.
Fine.
We could do that at the next meeting before the budget, because I think what also came out is that the council could look at the money that you're saving and make that reflect into what they're gonna give you next year.
But again, if our next meeting isn't until first Tuesday in July, and the concert is a week and a half later. If we give them more money, it may be too late for them to do what they would like.
If they don't know how much it's going to
Yeah,
be.
if they don't know, yeah.
And by the way, the first
But they don't,
Tuesday in July is 4th of July.
Okay,
July.
every day that we have there.
well, I'm thinking a lot of their expenses might be musicians and stuff like that, who get
Yeah,
paid
artists.
after they perform, so. Some of
Right,
that would be waiting, you know, they would have a budget, but they're not gonna have to pay.
they're not gonna have to pay, but they're gonna have to book. They're gonna have to, they're gonna have to make commitments.
And know what the offers are.
How about if Jenny, I think Jenny's gonna do this, I'll be the backup, talk to the parks today, send an email, because we can do that, and we can't vote via email, but we can send you an informational email. And I think then as chair, maybe you and Jenny and I can decide whether or not it calls for a special meeting, depending on what we learn, and then call that special meeting if needed.
And I
We
don't,
could also,
Can we also have budget information
Yeah.
at that
I'm
time?
saying we could share that at that time too.
and I don't
You
know
can share
the
that by email,
parks.
The budget information,
I know
yes.
Silverman a little bit.
Asked for 15
Yeah.
for 5, when really all they needed was 2.
Well, I
and-
suspect, and I don't know them, so I don't know for sure, but I suspect that whatever isn't covered, I know with Silverman, I think he pays out
They,
of
the
pocket.
parks have
Yeah,
covered it out of pocket.
out
in
of
the
pocket.
past.
So it's one of
Yes.
those things, like, I don't think anything would happen if it's the, are Margot and Walter gonna pay 3,000 for somebody to play, or they.
And I can understand why they want to go down to the end of the street
Yeah.
instead of, because they were having problems bringing their trucks in.
Mhm.
yeah.
And this way, it's a very easy,
We don't, well, the stage is not permanent. They have to build that every
Yeah.
year.
And tear it down.
Those trucks. You get a little money down there if it's.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you've got to deal with yard bits.
So I'm gonna suggest that we're at an hour and probably need to
Yeah.
move on to.
So for lifetime achievement in the arts, Judy had said, she had sent me an email, and I'm just gonna read you what she had sent me. I met with Josephine Wheel to talk about the possibility of her involvement in a tribute with Bob Castle. He designed their garden back in the 80s or 90s. Apparently, we have to be careful to get Gail Cassidy's buy-in, and Josephine is going to assist with that as she is a good friend of hers. I'm waiting for Josephine to speak with Gail, hopefully paving the way for a phone call from me or someone on the commission.
okay.
Step in the right
Yeah,
direction.
so
Yeah.
hopefully we'll have more of an update then about lifetime achievement in the arts we give out every year, and Bob Castley was who was
Right,
discussed.
and I read that, and then, and when is that award given?
Usually October-ish, yeah,
And that's also flexible.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of whenever, October is when we've done it, I've done it the past 2 years, and we do it at the rec center, and it's kind of whatever Friday night or Thursday night, we can get the room or whatever room night they're available, so. Banners with Alex not being here, I think we can put that on hold until July.
Mhm.
Signs I've already mentioned, and then, John, did you want to talk about the Parks and Rec meeting?
Yeah, that's Thursday, and it's a Zoom meeting. So if anybody else wants to, we're gonna talk about I guess primarily the Ozark Theater and getting it to a historic, is that what we're?
Oh, but no, with the parks, it's the renaming of the sculpture park.
Oh,
It's the
Yes.
process of naming
Yeah.
parks. and-
Yes, I guess to be more specific that, because they said that they didn't
so
really
if
have.
anybody else wants to attend that Zoom. you're welcome
Well, I'm
to.
gonna be out of town tomorrow, so that's why I'm not going.
Okay,
Okay,
Has the agenda been posted? Is it the beginning or the end?
I have not gotten, I should get it at some point today. They usually have to be posted like 48 hours in
Yeah,
advance,
sure.
so I put it online, so.
This one on.
Oh,
Yeah.
You haven't.
I haven't,
Posted it
nobody
yet,
sent it to
okay.
me to.
Then it goes, look, I was like, wait a minute, she knows whether it's like this.
I'm the one who posted.
hey, 6:30 Thursday, it's a Zoom meeting, so
Yes,
I guess let Jenny know if you're.
yes, and I can send it out to a larger group in case, well, I'll just email Alex and,
I have a baseball game.
Alex and, I'm like Rob, and see if either of them would be interested in attending.
Okay. So, let's see, miscellaneous updates, we've talked about the signs already, basically, and we've talked about Parks and Rec meetings, so.
Yeah.
I have one last thing, I have to, submit my resignation here, I'm gonna be moving out of Webster.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
Oh.
yeah, I'm moving with my son, well, my son lives with me now. It's just him and I and the house on Elm, so we're gonna move down into Tower Grove East into a 2-family.
Gotcha.
When are you planning to move? Like how?
Probably about 2 months, so
2 months.
I was gonna put in my resignation for 2 months. I don't, are we
Okay.
up to full strength now?
Yeah, so
I think we actually have room for one
one
more.
more member, yeah, so
So
we
now
have
we
either
have room.
July, and August, we'll have 2 more, and then we'll have to, okay, so we've
I'll
got
be-
you,
I'll be happy, and if
okay,
there's a problem, you can't get somebody else, even if I've moved, I'll be glad to still come to the meetings, you know.
Okay.
Well, still call you and ask for things. Jen.
Yeah.
Oh, we will.
Sure.
so for July then, with the first Tuesday of the month being July 4th. did you want to meet another day that week, or did we want to meet July 11th, or what
I
is,
think we should go to the second week.
okay. So one vote for July 11th.
You got a vote on that? Or we need to
I don't think we need to,
do a motion, we'll just say it will be July 11th.
July 11th,
Sounds pretty good.
Same time, same station here.
Yeah. same bat time.
Same batch, yeah.
Okay,
Will that work for you, or,
yeah,
okay,
Cool.
Should we adjourn?
We are adjourned.
okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right.
Everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
thank you.
Thank you.